Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to the Carnosine Lab. We are so excited to have you here tonight with us, live globally on multiple platforms. Those of you tuning in from YouTube, drop a heart in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Facebook, Instagram, do the same. We want to hear where you guys are tuning in around the world. If you're watching the replay, we want to hear where you're watching the replay from as well. You guys, tonight, we are diving in to unlocking the Carnosine code. We have a phenomenal guest tonight, a physician, a practitioner, a wellness regenerative medicine specialist who is joining us here tonight. So I am so excited to have you on. We are going to be introducing Dr. Jazelle Bachelor. This woman is a dual doctorate provider. She is an inaugural care physician. And yes, the Carnosine revolution, she has taken the reins and is helping spearhead the education with this phenomenal product. There has been over 3,000 studies on Carnosine. And tonight we're going to dive into wellness, aesthetics, regenerative health. And as we look at her, she is an authority in practice. She runs wellness and aesthetics in Park City, Utah. She is in clinical leadership. She has industry recognition, and she has been featured across the media. Those women diving in tonight, this woman has been featured on Vogue amongst incredible documented sources across the industry. She is one of the most beautiful, talented, and wonderful speakers, educators, and tonight we are so honored to have the world-renowned Dr. Jazelle Bachelor tuning in with us tonight. Her philosophy of health is the healthiest version of you is the best version of you, and she truly abides by this. She is the mother of two beautiful boys, and she transitioned from biological dentistry into regenerative medicine, and she's going to talk about her experience, what fueled that, her approach to not only health, but looking at the whole body, not just the mouth, but from the inside out. You'll see her soon. Her skin is gorgeous. And tonight she is going to educate us on why Carnosine is taking the world by storm. So without further ado, Dr. Jazelle Bachelor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that amazing introduction. I am delighted to be with you here today and to get started talking about my personal journey and all about Carnosine and how many applications there are, which are many, and then focusing in on what I believe may be piquing your interest for this evening, being some discussion about the skin and aesthetics. So getting started, so Jessica mentioned I have a background in a variety of different healthcare avenues. I have been to, I started off with nursing school back in the late 90s, and I have taken a path of going through dental school, public health. I've studied everything from Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurveda, a lot of different things. Natural medicine. And what I do currently is I work mostly with lasers and light therapy and regenerative materials like platelet-rich fibrin. So that's a little bit about me and what I do professionally, and a little bit about my experience with LactiGo before we get started. I'm just going to talk a little bit just from the experience side. And then as we go through the conversation, hopefully you'll be able to pick up on how my experience with LactiGo was impacting me on the cellular level and with my physiology and that kind of thing. But I will say about more than 20 years ago now, I had suffered several herniated discs in my low back. And honestly, I didn't know how I was going to make it through graduate school. 1 year, never mind, finish the whole program. I have always been someone who leans into solutions that are health focused and health conscious. I, having had my first doctorate in surgery, my father's a surgeon. One of the things that I will say is, there is a time and a place for all things, but I don't think that any surgeon would tell you that that is something that you should run toward, and if there are other solutions. So I've always looked for solutions that are supporting me in the best way possible, and thankfully was able to avoid surgery. But over the years, from time to time, my back has given me some issues, and some, usually, about a week or so of downtime. But about a year and a half ago, I started having some symptoms, and those symptoms didn't really seem very different from what I had experienced over the past, like I say, 20 years, from time to time, having soreness in my low back. But those things progressed to a little bit more than a year ago, having a point of a lot of spasming in a lot of different areas, and really, this was a much longer haul than a 1 week out, with ice pack kind of situation. So I had an MRI and found that I had a couple of injuries, and in my hip and in my low back, pretty severe. And the list of things that I'm so fortunate to have access to is not short. It's pretty long. I mean, I have in my cell phone, I have multiple providers from many disciplines, one of which is regenerative orthopedic surgeons. And I'm able to, reach them in that way and get their advice. And so that, coupled with physical therapy and acupuncture and a long list of other modalities, laser light therapy, PEMF, if you know that, frequency specific microcurrent, if you know that, orthobionomy, which is a similar sort of functionality to Reiki. But I mean, just the list, chiropractors, multiple chiropractors, a variety of different methods at a physical therapy office, including ultrasound and acoustic wave treatments. I mean, the list, I could go on and on for our entire talk about all of the different things that I had employed to get myself healthy. Well, about 6 or 9 months later into the summer, my progress was pretty slow, I have to say, especially considering what I was seeing in my clients for many years doing these kinds of treatments, and with my colleagues. And so thankfully, I was able to come across LactiGo. And because again, what I was noticing a lot of was lactic acid buildup at that point. And that was my major point of discomfort and my major hurdle, I felt like, at that point in my healing. And initially, so I will say, there are so many things about LactiGo that I love, and there are so many stories that are so amazing. And I will say that I absolutely love this product. I love Carnosine. I love what it has done for me. I also want to just say that, it's not a cure all. It's not necessarily going to take you on day one having some symptom and to day two never having it again. So just, setting your expectations with all modalities, just like healthy diet and exercise, you're not going to look like a swimsuit edition your first day into the gym, right? So understanding working with the body is very important with all of these modalities where you're working from a regenerative perspective, I think is important to understand. So initially I was applying LactiGo like in the middle of the night when I'm not able to sleep. Understood later about how long it takes to absorb and how long it's in your system. So I began applying it more frequently. And I will say, after a long process of a very difficult time, I am about 85% better, which it might sound like, oh, well, what about that last bit? Well, I'm just telling you, it was pretty severe. And so that is a very exciting place for me now, because it puts me in a place of function in a world where, I am a mother and I do have work to do clinically and physically. So it really has been a great gift to me. So as we're going through the slides, you can think through, and I might point you to some of these aspects as it was supporting me and my health and my recovery. But again, we're going to try to get to the parts where I think that a lot of you are excited to hear about as it relates to skin and aesthetics and that kind of thing. So let's dive in and learn a little bit about this wonderful thing called Carnosine. So what is carnosine? And so many of you on the call might have heard about this before. Some of you might feel like this is new to hear about. And quite frankly, when I first heard about LactiGo, if I knew a lot about carnosine with all of my education, it certainly wasn't at the forefront and something that I could speak to with a lot of fluency. And I think that the reason for that we can get to later in this discussion, but basically there wasn't a way of addressing the fact that we have reduced carnosine over time as we age. And so that's probably why we didn't talk about it a lot in our schooling. But it does really wonderful things. So you remember I mentioned this lactic acid thing, and the first bullet point we have here is talking about how it is buffering that pH. And I can't emphasize enough, like when I was in nursing school, we talked a lot about homeostasis, and homeostasis is so important for health. There are different areas of the body that need to be a different pH, and so that is so important for your overall health. Carnosine is also an antioxidant, so when you have free radicals roaming around, it is going to be helpful for preventing those free radicals from causing a rusting or an aging process, something that relates to, again, aging, but also inflammatory things and damage that relates to a variety of different conditions and diseases. Mitochondrial support. So we see the cell here, and this beautiful lit up mitochondria, and that is a little bit not to scale, but it is where you get the power for your cells. So all of your cells are so beautiful and so intelligent, and they're there to support you and to heal and to recover and to do their function properly. But they do need the energy. They do need to be able to do what they do with a certain amount of energy. So in order to protect that function, we also want to protect those mitochondria and what they experience as far as so it's talking about oxidative exhaust, and we're talking about oxidative stress and helping with that. So helping things to move along smoothly and getting the cogs out of the way. So the dipeptide, beta alanine, and L-histidine. This is something that we'll talk about later, but we see this a lot in the brain and the skeletal tissue. So let's move to the next. All right. So I'm not going to talk a lot about each one of these because we are going to get into more talking about the skin, but it's amazing how diverse the benefits of this super intelligent dipeptide is. So we have a photo here, or images that are so beautiful here, of the heart, the liver, and the eyes, and how it's supporting each one of these very different organ systems. So in the heart, a whole presentation on how important nitric oxide is. If you don't know about nitric oxide, you might like to look that up. That's something else that as we get older is a meaningful thing to understand. And so it's protecting that and supporting our heart. And with our liver, we're going to be having some metabolic byproducts that it's helping us to take care of, and helping us with our filtration system for our body. And then with our eyes, this is something, again, that we'll talk about later when we're talking about how it relates to the skin. But, your whole body is made up of proteins. And so one of the things that carnosine is doing is protecting the protein structure. So in the eyes, that means that we're going to have prevention with and protection for your eyes. So preventing the clouding and crystals that are formed from proteins when you have exposure to things like UV radiation and excess sugar. So we can move on to the next one. All right. So with our, and I apologize for a few of the typos here, but we have benefits for our brain, which is super exciting, our nerves, and when we're seeing that this is something that is just a protective mechanism throughout our whole bodies, it's just very exciting. So a lot of us, when we're talking about LactiGo and we're looking at the packaging, we think about the athletic piece. And for athletes who are very serious or professionals, certainly that's amazing. But when it comes down to all of us, athletes or non-athletes alike, what we see is if you're not able to function, if you were having issues with focus, with your mood, or like I was saying, with dysfunctional function of your body and not being able to move the way that you want without pain, you realize that the most exciting thing is really just having a baseline access to wellness and health and functionality. So I love what it's doing for our central nervous system. We can move to the next one. I think that, okay. Yeah. And then we've talked a lot about muscles with LactiGo. You all are probably pretty familiar with this, but one of the things that happens as we age is this thing called sarcopenia, and it relates to reduced muscle mass as we get older. So this is supporting so many different things. It's hard to believe that one simple dipeptide could be so intelligent and so impactful in so many things, including keeping our muscles intact and our muscle mass from degrading over time. Enhancing calcium sensitivity so that you can have efficient contraction. And we've talked about recovery, especially as we are maintaining our pH balance and taking care of lactic acid and all of those kinds of things. All right, so getting into mechanisms of aging. And this is something that is very exciting because it's a very simple thing to apply, and we'll talk more about application later. And if I don't get to it, please do remind me about how to apply it and how I applied if you're curious. But so one of the things that happens over time is that we have, a lot of us in our diets have sugars, whether it's sugar from fruit or sugar from other things that maybe are less, we can be less proud of consuming, but even starches, break down into sugars when we're eating those things in our diet. And over time, we have this process that would be happening in our body, kind of like a caramelization or a browning, where this sugar is binding to proteins and it's wreaking havoc with the structure that would be the most healthy for those. And carnosine is something that comes in and it binds with those sugar molecules. They prefer the structure of carnosine to those proteins. And so it prevents them from creating these structures that are not meant to be or not healthy over time. So that is another beautiful function of carnosine. So anti-glycation is the word for that. But basically, if you consider that the sugar could bind to these proteins, and you see this beautiful structure here. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a sip of water. That it could move those things around. That leads to things like wrinkles and sagging on the surface of your skin. So the second mechanism here, antioxidation, and we've talked about antioxidants before. And once again, carnosine is sacrificing itself, donating itself to take care of these free radicals. And something else that I love, coming from a place of biological dental medicine, is how intelligently it's also chelating these pro-oxidative metals from the body. So it's doing it in an intelligent way, not in a way that is difficult for the body to handle. I have a little tickle in my throat. So as far as the skin goes, we have a few different things that are wonderful to talk about. So chronic inflammation is one issue. And for those of us who are probably, beyond the ages of 20 and 30, we probably notice some of these things happening over time that we didn't notice so much when we were younger. But the aspect of a chronic inflammation happening is something that over time is going to cause, aging and in addition to discomfort. So you're going to see collagen breaking down and other things. So that's one thing. Another thing, which again is so beautiful, it's hard to imagine that this one thing can do all of these things, But if we look at our skin, we realize this is our largest organ. And if we could just create something for our skin, sure, we love the idea of protection from the inside, right? As we're showing all of these structural things that are important for aesthetics. But we would certainly also love to see that we could protect it from the outside. And isn't it amazing that this is something that forms a film that is also protective on the outside of the skin? And again, getting back to the structural integrity, like I talked about, the anti-glycation components is really important. And so if you're looking at this picture here, and of course it's not like a skin tone color, it's a beautiful modern imaging of the skin. But if you look at this as like the top is the outside of the skin, and the bottom of this picture is what's going on underneath your skin, you can see how if that structure is not able to be resilient and not able to maintain its proper form, that would be something that would be apparent on the surface. So here I'm referring to a study back from 2017, and these are just some exciting pieces of data and why we look at carnosine and why we're having this conversation about the aesthetics impact of carnosine and the exciting future that we have with this kind of delivery system. So who wouldn't like more firm skin as they get older, and elasticity and hydration and texture? All of these components are going to absolutely give you a more healthy, a more youthful, a more glowing look. And ultimately, that's what I believe everybody is looking for when they're coming for aesthetic services. It's not so much that they don't want their face to move or some of the other things that they might be seeking treatments to address, but ultimately they want to look like the best version of themselves, which is the healthiest version of themselves. And when you have these components of the skin improve, you're going to get just that. And here's another really cool one, especially, I mean, for women and for men, but I've read that men are, one of the things that men are not inclined to do is a lot of the same aesthetics things that women are inclined to do, but men do care about the chiseled nature of their jawline. And that is something that men and women both recognize as an important part of their youthful look. So this is something else that has been shown in research, that you have a 7% reduction in the jawline sagging after just 56 days. So again, very exciting for the actual form of your face and not just the skin. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is not something that I remember being talked about a lot in my schooling, right? And why is that? Well, if we take carnosine and we remove what we know about it or what you might know about it, and you just assume that, okay, this is like an antioxidant, this is like a vitamin C. Well, I eat oranges, I take vitamin C. I think I'll just take a vitamin for that. The difficult part here with carnosine historically was that if you were to take it orally, there is this thing called carnosinase in the blood and in the gut, and this would absolutely just destroy your carnosine. So you wouldn't be able to have the delivery that you would like if you were to take it orally. So the wonderful thing about having a topical delivery is that you don't have to worry about the digestion. You don't have to worry about this antagonist. And you can have it work locally and systemically. There's no loading phase. So one of my good friends who actually spoke at our LactiGo meeting that we had here was speaking about to me about how he used to have his players supplement with the precursor to carnosine. And that actually takes months of oral supplementation, and you still don't get the turnover that you're wanting. So that was something that has been done and some people are still doing, but there's a loading phase there and there's some other drawbacks there. But you can use this as targeted buffering. You can apply it directly to the area that you have. It's very easy. And within 5 minutes, you start to get that absorption. Within 45 minutes, you have full absorption. And that is just wonderful. And that's going to be there with you for 2 to 4 hours systemically. So the future of regenerative wellness, I mean, this is really what I see, is that everything that is being done out in the world of regenerative wellness, regenerative aesthetics, I believe that this is the future. Some of the things that have been done in the past and even in the present are things that might be removing vitality from a given area. And I really believe that putting vitality into all of the tissues that I treat is the way of the future. It supports everything in a wonderful way. And as we've talked about, there's protection there for the heart, there's protection there for the liver and your eyes. How important are those things, right? And on the molecular level, stopping the glycation, and that's everywhere through your body. We've talked about it on the skin, we've talked about it with the eyes, but everywhere through your body, you do have proteins, and you want those proteins to maintain their healthy and purposeful structure. On the aesthetics end, we've talked about how it can firm your skin and all of the other things. It's not just the firming, it's a variety of different things. So yeah, my philosophy of practice is the healthiest version of you is absolutely the best version of you. A lot of people come to me for both things relating to pain and performance, as well as aesthetics. And ultimately, I believe that those two things come together in a beautiful way. And this product, this topical application of Carnosine, this delivery mechanism that you can appreciate systemically, is really like this most beautiful manifestation of how I practice and why I practice the way that I do. It's a very intelligent thing. It's a very beautiful thing. I personally have benefited from this, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds as we have this very potent delivery mechanism, and seeing how it impacts a variety of things that are yet to be determined in the future of the research in this area. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Giselle. This is so incredible and so powerful to know not only how it affects our bodies, which most people are used to using it for, using it to topically apply to your body and then having it benefit, ailments, pain, joints, etc. But knowing the benefit for your skin, your jawline, that chisel, I love the chisel jawline, driving that home too. But talk to us too. I know a lot of women on here, me included, because I talked to you about this, knowing you for so long. Tell us more about, how women, if you're using skincare, the best ways to apply Carnosine before, after, during, when to apply Carnosine on your face, and how they should be going about that.
Okay, awesome. I love this question because I do think that it's a wonderful thing to apply for the aesthetics benefits in your face. Even though, wherever you apply it, we know that you have some systemic benefits. I absolutely love the idea of applying it on the face. From my own personal experience, and everybody's going to have a different lineup of products in their cabinet in the bathroom or in their makeup bag. But from my own personal experience, I've found that I like to do Carnosine on its own. I like the idea of applying Carnosine at night before I go to bed for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you're asleep, your body is doing a lot of really wonderful work at repair. And so I love for it to be able to be functioning at that point in time. Also, for whatever reason, what I have in my cabinet, if I combine those or if I layer those together, I tend to get like a film coming off, and I don't really want that. So I really love that. And another thing to consider, we've talked about how this is a delivery mechanism that is amazing. And I will say that there are a lot of products out there in the market that have a lot of things in them that we might not want to be driving deeper into our skin and our tissues. So I love the idea of applying it on its own, unless you're working with, a regenerative specialist to tell you, okay, this is a product that you would want to drive deeper in. And also just giving one nod in terms of the makeup piece, that, there have been studies done and measurements made about different things that can exist in our makeup bag that we, not chemical wise, but otherwise, like like the biome of the bathroom kind of stuff, that would be wonderful, I think, to avoid, again, driving deep into the skin. So I love putting carnosine on at night. And you didn't ask this question, but I would love to go ahead and answer it, because I, think men and women alike are both going to love having this product. And so if you don't have a regimen of different products to put on, I know that men love to put it on in the morning before they go out, and again at night before they go to bed. So depending on what your regimen is, it's a wonderful product to apply when you don't have other things to combine.
1000%. Thank you so much for diving deeper into that question too. I love your expertise as you've, worked with people across many lines. The future of carnosine is so broad. It's so vast, and we are just getting this conversation started. You've talked about the systemic defense, the cognitive clarity, the physical longevity, the largest organ in our body, our skin. We have some questions too. When people are, before we wrap this up, when people are putting it on their eyes, one question we have in the comments: do you keep it away from their eyes? I hear people applying it around their eyes, to their eyelids, for, eye health, regenerative health for their eyes. But what would you say to that question about applying it near, on, or around your eyelids?
So I would say use something like, it's one thing if you're just sort of applying it generally on your face, and I tend to, avoid rubbing it into the eye area that way. But if you do want to apply it around your eye very specifically, and maybe you're just wanting to test that area, I would say, you can use something like a Q-tip or a cotton tip applicator, and just sort of, control where you're applying it a little better that way. I think that it's a wonderful product, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't like try to get it into my eye. I think that it's going to do a great job around, and it absorbs deeply, so you get some benefits, in the surrounding tissues. It's not that you have to apply it on this exact point on your face, and that, it has, it's a delivery mechanism, right? So it's driving it into the tissues, which is great.
For sure. I think the biggest, what people are wanting to know is, how close to apply it to the eye. And, we've heard stories of, and, again, this is not medical advice. We're not making any medical claims or scientific claims, but, we do see a lot of folks having benefit with cataracts, glaucoma, eye issues and eye health. So yes, like Giselle said, apply it underneath the eyelids. You can apply it or over the eyelids, underneath the eye, and help that, because it's just going to be that healing agent driving into your skin and finding that inflammatory piece and healing it. So I love that. Dr. Giselle, before we wrap up, one question some people had too is, do you apply this before skincare, after? The best way, if you just want to touch on that question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So I've asked this question of Chad, because he is the guru of all, right? That knows this topic so well. And because of this delivery mechanism, which again is it can't be understated. We have carnosine, we have the magnesium with the carnosine, and that's a whole other thing. We could talk all night long about all these benefits of magnesium, which are amazing. But this delivery mechanism, this aspect of being able to get something from the surface into the tissues is the exciting piece here, right? That we were able to deliver it, right? It wouldn't matter so much if we couldn't deliver it, if it was just something that was on the surface and it wasn't driving deep into the tissues, especially for, like what I talked about that I experienced this last year. But what I was going to say is, if you apply it over something, it's important to understand that you could be driving that, whatever it is over, deeper into the tissues. If you apply it first and let it dry and then apply other things, then you won't necessarily be driving those things into the tissues or be as likely to carry those things deeper. So again, depending on what it is that you're using, I would say, just pay attention to what are in the ingredients to decide if that sounds like it would make sense to do. And if you want to drive something in deeper, then applying the carnosine over that is something that may show that it will do that.
Fantastic. Yes. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Thank you for all that incredible information. I just love, we could talk all night long. I know there's so many questions, and we see you. We're going to get to all of these each and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We love having these carnosine conversations. And just so you know, next week, we have four practitioners next week on the Carnosine Lab. We're going to be discussing with doctors of all different disciplines. You guys, we're diving into what carnosine is doing and why these practitioners are loving this product. Dr. Giselle, one of the most renowned practitioners, has just shared from her expertise why she loves it. So next week is for you, not just to have your minds blown by the doctors, right? But to really invite other practitioners to hear from their peers about what carnosine is doing and to dive deeper into the carnosine conversation. You guys, thank you so much. Dr. G, thank you for being on here tonight. Absolutely love chatting with you. Thank you for presenting that beautiful PowerPoint and all the exciting information that we know and are learning about carnosine. You guys, this has been one of the most exciting Carnosine Lab conversations we've had. Thank you for being on here tonight. Don't forget to tune in, like us on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll see you on here next week. Thanks a lot and have a great night. Bye for now.